Hi y'all, it's Kimberly here. Thank you for coming to my channel, everybody. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about circuses and why I boycott them. I went to my first circus when I was 7 years old, and I went with my aunt and my cousins, and I'd never been to the circus before, so I was real excited and I didn't know what to think about it. And then when we got in there, it was real exciting with all the lights and all the hoopla or whatever you want to call it. And they sent out some clowns and they were dancing around doing their little thing, and then they sent out these horses, the ones that go around in the circle, and I love horses. And there was a lady, she was like in a real fancy leotard, and this guy, and he had a whip, but well, he didn't hit him, but he was like cracking it, making the sound. And that kind of, I really didn't like that. And I was 7 years old, And they were going around the floor in their little circle thing, the huge tent circle thing that they do. And the horse kept clipping this one little, it was like a little step ladder thing. And the guy kept pushing it forward as he was going around, and the horse kept clipping it. And he did it like 7 or 8 or 10 times, and the horse, every time the horse hit it, it would kind of knock it out of the way, and the guy would push it back up. He wasn't pushing it in the horse's way, but he was pushing it right where his leg would just hit the edge of it. And it was really starting to kind of piss me off. I was like, why is that guy so stupid? Why is he doing that, You can't ever mess with horses' legs, it can cripple them, and that's devastating for a horse. You usually have to put a horse down when it breaks its leg. It's very hard to treat a broken leg in a horse. And then after that, they brought this, it was like a dog act with a whole bunch of poodles and dogs, and they had them all jumping around doing little tricks and everything. I was like, oh, that's so cute and everything. And then they had this one little poodle, real little poodle, and they brought out a chair. And then he had this long pole, and it was about 20 or 25 feet long. And he put the chair, he screwed it onto the pole, and then he pushed the pole up there. And then he started speaking on the microphone that this dog is going to jump down from that pole, and we're going to catch him from that chair, and we're going to catch him. I was horrified. And he put the dog on the chair and lifted the pole back up. And I could tell the dog was terrified. It looked like the dog was shaking the whole time. And the dog it took a long time for that dog to jump off. You could tell that dog did not like what it was doing. And the guy was yelling at it in another language. And he kept yelling, and then he got really loud, like telling it to, I guess, jump or whatever. And finally it did, but you could just tell it was terrified. And then he made the dog do it like 5 times. And so I was completely, by that time I was just unnerved, I didn't like the circus. I decided at that time, I was like, oh, I don't like this. And then they brought out the lions and tigers, and they were cracking the whips, and they were, it was really beautiful to see all those, big cats and everything. And they were making it growl and rear up and do all that, and they were cracking the whip, and it sounded, he was yelling at them all the time. And then he lit this circle thing on fire, and he made them all jump through it, and he had like 3 or 4 of them. They had to jump through it onto a block and through there. One of the tigers hit the end of one of those little pedestal blocks or whatever it is as it was landing, and it flipped the block over, and he landed on the floor, and he kind of reared up at the guy, and the guy was snapping him and everything. And I was like, I wanted that tiger to eat that guy. How horrible that a 7-year-old would think that. But I was so mad, and I think, I'm not sure if I was just seeing it in my mind, but it was on one of the lions. It looked like it had some scars, little black marks on its back, like where it had gotten burned or something. And I just don't like any kind of act with animals that circuses that make them do tricks, and if they have to yell at them, and if they can't be domesticated, you know. There's a difference between a dog and a horse and cats, you know. Even like parakeets. You know, you can kind of domesticate these animals, but tigers and even chimpanzees, they had a bunch of monkeys there, which I'm terrified of. I mean, monkeys, chimpanzees terrify me. And I didn't like that. My sister, she loves monkeys, but they're just terrifying to me. And I nearly bought one time when I was little. In the back of magazines, I'm not kidding you, when I was growing up, in the back of magazines, you could buy certain animals, live animals, and they would ship them to your house. And they had these monkeys called marmosets, and they're only about a couple of pounds. They're only like that big, you know, they're tiny little things. And it was $99, and I was saving up, and this is when I was like a teenager. I was very young, and I was like, I think at one point I had like $79 or $82 or something like that. I don't remember, but I was like, oh, I've almost got enough to get that monkey. And I never quite got enough saved up, but if I would have had one of those monkeys. And they shipped them, I mean, live, just directly to your doorstep. It used to be legal, but they cut that out. They made it illegal. But, you know, it's a good thing I didn't do it, you know. And then the elephants. I mean, this almost made me cry. I was very upset about the elephants, the way that they were treating them. They had these big, long, it looked like a fireplace poker, really. Just like one. It had the little hook end on it and the little point on the end. And he kept jabbing them, you know, and poking them with it. And then he would grab it with the little arch part of it. He would grab it on the inside of their ear somewhere. Or I'm not sure if it was their mouth or their ear somewhere. He was sticking it in up, you know, in that little area. And he hurt one of the elephants. I heard the elephant. I heard it just made this really loud, shrill sound. His trunk went up like that. And he shook his head. But there was so much music and everything, and the lights and everything. And it was just, to me, it was very traumatic. I didn't like it at all. And afterwards, we got to go over to where they had the elephants at, and they were giving elephant rides, and I got to pet one of them, and then I think it was like $1 or $2 for the rides, and I got on it, and this guy, he was like one of the circus roadies, or I don't know what they call them, but circus, where they set up all the equipment, they do everything like that. They all had these jumpsuits on and everything, and he just picked all of us kids up, and there was like a metal brace kind of thing, like, I want to say a saddle, but it was across the elephant's back, and he was squished probably about 7 or 8 of us kids in a row, you know, it's one back to back, or one right after the other. And I remember I was the last one, and he squished me in there between the little bar behind my back, and I was a real little tiny kid, but he squeezed me in there, threw me in there with all these kids, and it was so uncomfortable, and so I didn't enjoy it at all. But, I mean, if I could have rode it without, you know, 10 kids squished up against me, I might have enjoyed it, but it was a very bad experience, and I felt so sorry for the elephants, and they were bobbing their heads. And that's one of the main things I don't like circuses, is especially if they use elephants, because elephants are animals that travel about probably 25 or maybe up to 50 miles per day, and they do it in a pattern. They're always looking for water. They're going from water hole to water hole, and they might stay at one water hole for a few days or something like that, but then they travel. Elephants have this need, I don't know why, but they travel a lot, and when they're in captivity, chaining them up with the leg irons is one of the most cruelest things that you can do to an elephant. And that's why they have this behavior where they shake their head back and forth. It literally drives them crazy. And it makes them violent. It's just so, I mean, that's one of the most horrific things you can do to an animal is to chain them up like that, and especially elephants, because they have this need to travel for miles and miles. And they become very, you can't domesticate them really, you really can't. And it takes a lot of strength, and they abuse them. There are tons of videos of them being abused online. They use those pokers, and they have like a razor tip on it, because their skin is very thick, and it's like a very thick leather suitcase. I don't know, like I forget what those suitcases are, the ones that they used to throw around in the commercials. Their skin is super thick, and I just think that is just the cruelest thing, and I just can't stand it. I can't stand circuses. I hate them, I hate them, I hate them. And when I see those stacks of free tickets for the circuses, I usually grab them, take them, and then I tear them up. I don't care. I don't care. It's just one of the worst things that I've ever experienced. And I only went to one other circus. My sister was taking her kids to a circus, and she wanted me to go with her. And I was like, I don't go to circuses, you know that. And she thinks, oh, Kim, you know. I was like, it's horrible. And so I went with her, but I went with ulterior motive to show my niece how cruel it is. And when we're there, I pointed out everything horrible about it. I told her, you know, they chain these animals up, and they do this, they do that. And I kind of ruined the experience for her, but it made her understand how cruel it is, you know. And my sister, she's kind of come around a little bit too. She doesn't like them either, especially what they do to the elephants. And any circus that uses animals like that, you know, if it was like a dog act where it wasn't harming the dogs or something like that, with domesticated animals that are, you know, not being harmed, but when they put those tigers in cages all day long and they ship them around day after day, they got to go everywhere. They travel all over the country. They're in one place for 1 or 2 days. And they put these animals in cages and they travel them around like that. When you have to cage up an animal, especially like a tiger, and keep it in a cage, you know, practically 24 hours a day, and then they have ulcers, they have stomach issues, they have intestinal problems, they have all kinds of issues because they're not used to traveling and being on the road, and it's just so unnatural to them, and it's just so horrible to, you know, some animals just don't do good in captivity, especially the big cats and the elephants and the chimpanzees. I can't stand it. Well, after I got home, my aunt, I was near tears, you know, I was very upset. And my aunt told my mom, Kim needs to learn how to relax and have fun. And I was 7 years old, and she told my mom that, you know. And I told my mom, I started crying at that point. I was like, ooh, they were abusing the animals. It was so horrible. It was awful, like that. And my aunt, she was my mother's brother's wife. My uncle's deceased now, and she had left him and divorced him a long time ago, but we really didn't get along, and that was one of the main parts of her character that I just, you know, she didn't take enough time to understand, you know, why I was upset, you know. If a 7-year-old is upset at a circus, you know, you kind of need to find out, or what's wrong, you know. And that made a big impression on me in my life for like endangered species like elephants and tigers and stuff like that. I just think it's horribly cruel to put them in circuses, and I don't go to them, and I boycott them, and I always talk bad about them. I don't care for them, and you know, if they use human acts, fine, I'm fine with that. You know, use the humans, make them do all the tricks, you know. You don't need to do that with the elephants. And I remember they were making this elephant get on one of those balls, those huge balls, and making it walk around. And I don't know, to make an animal that huge to be able to do something like that, and plus they get very old and they get arthritis. Elephants live for a long time, and you don't know how they feel, and if they're scared of doing something. I mean, I just didn't enjoy it at all. Well, that's just my take on the circus and how much I hate them. And except for like Cirque du Soleil, where they use human, I like that, but not the animal ones where they chain them up and, you know, sitting there watching elephants weave back and forth because they have a natural instinct to go find a watering hole, you know, to walk for hours, and they live in family units. And when they take the babies away, when they have a baby and then they take it away and they sell it or do something with it, that's just so cruel and so horrible. And elephants live in a big, huge family, and it's just so awful when they take them out of the wild and chain them up, and it's just so abusive and so horrible, and I just hate that. Well, that's just the way I feel, and y'all can comment, like, subscribe, you know, tell me your opinion about it. Thank you all.